The shuttle bay doors opened with a soft hiss as Park Hyun-woo stepped onto the neutral space station orbiting Kepler 442. The metal floor beneath his polished black shoes rang with each careful step. Behind him walked 3 other humans, each carrying diplomatic cases and wearing the dark blue uniforms of Earth's colonial alliance. The war had been going on for 3 years now, and today might be the day it finally ended. Hyun-woo had gray hair at his temples and kind eyes that had seen too much death. He was 52 years old and had spent half his life talking to aliens who wanted to kill humans. Most of the time, he convinced them not to. Sometimes he failed, and people died. He did not like failing. The space station was called Harmony Point, and it belonged to no one. Built by 7 different alien species, it floated in empty space between human and Vorth territory. The walls were white metal with blue lights running along the edges. Air recyclers hummed softly in the background. Everything smelled clean and cold. "Ambassador Park?" said a voice behind them. They turned to see Captain Rodriguez walking toward them. She was a short woman with brown skin and tired eyes. "Welcome to Harmony Point. I hope you can end this war." "That is why we are here," Hyun-woo said in his calm voice. He spoke English with a slight accent that made people trust him. "Are the Vorth already here?" "They arrived 2 hours ago," Rodriguez said. Her face showed worry. "Their leader is War Commander Thexval. He has a bad reputation." Kim So-ra stepped forward. She was tall for a Korean woman with short black hair and muscles that showed even through her diplomatic uniform. Before becoming a diplomat, she had been a colonel in the colonial marines. She had killed many Vorth soldiers during the war. "What kind of reputation?" "The kind that makes entire colonies surrender before he even lands," Rodriguez said. "He destroyed the civilian station at Kepler 186. 12,000 people died. He did it to send a message." Lee Dong-min adjusted his glasses and made a note on his tablet. He was the team's expert on alien biology and culture. He knew more about Vorth behavior than most humans. "Has he shown any signs of aggression since arriving?" "He demanded the best quarters and the largest meeting room," Rodriguez said. "His guards are carrying weapons even though station rules forbid it. When I told him about the weapons ban, he just stared at me until I walked away." Choi Ye-jin was the youngest member of their team at 28. She handled all communications and could speak 17 different alien languages, including 3 Vorth dialects. "What does he look like?" "Big," Rodriguez said. "Even for a Vorth, maybe 8 feet tall with scars all over his face and arms. His claws are longer than my fingers. When he talks, his voice sounds like rocks grinding together." Hyun-woo nodded, slowly. He had read Thexval's file during the journey to Harmony Point. The Vorth commander had won 43 battles during his career. He had never retreated from a fight. He had personally killed over 300 enemy soldiers with his bare claws. Most importantly, he had never signed a peace treaty with anyone. "When do we meet?" Hyun-woo asked. "In 2 hours," Rodriguez said. "I suggest you rest first. You will need your strength." Their quarters were small but comfortable. 4 rooms connected to a central living area with a view of the stars through a large window. Hyun-woo sat in a chair and looked out at the distant sun of Kepler 442. Somewhere around that star were 5 human colonies with 30 million people. If these talks failed, those people might die. So-ra sat across from him, cleaning her sidearm. Even though weapons were banned, she had hidden a small pistol in her diplomatic case. Old habits from her military days. "Do you think he will try to intimidate us?" "Yes," Hyun-woo said without looking away from the window. "That is what Vorth do. They believe fear makes enemies weak." "Will it work?" Dong-min asked from where he was reading alien cultural files. "No," Hyun-woo said. His voice was very calm. "Fear is not something humans carry for long." Ye-jin was setting up her translation equipment in the corner. The devices would convert Vorth speech into human languages in real time. They would also record everything said during the meetings. "The files say Vorth respect strength above all else. Should we show strength?" "We will show them what strength really looks like," Hyun-woo said. He finally turned away from the window. "It does not roar or threaten or wave weapons around. Real strength sits quietly and waits." 2 hours later, they walked through the corridors of Harmony Point toward the main conference room. Other aliens moved aside as they passed. Most had heard about the human-Vorth war. Some species thought humans were weak because they tried to solve problems with words before weapons. Others had heard different stories about what happened when humans stopped talking. The conference room was large with a round table in the center. Windows on all sides showed the stars and the distant planets of the Kepler system. Captain Rodriguez was already there, along with representatives from 6 other alien species who would witness the talks. Then the Vorth delegation entered. Thexval was everything Rodriguez had said and worse. His scales were dark green with black patches where old wounds had healed. His eyes were yellow with vertical pupils like a snake. When he moved, his claws scraped against the metal floor. Behind him came 4 Vorth guards in black armor carrying plasma rifles. The alien witnesses moved back when they saw Thexval. A Centauri diplomat actually left the room. The war commander noticed and smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. So these are the humans, Thexval said in heavily accented English. His voice was deep and rough like stones being crushed. You are smaller than I expected. Hyunwoo walked to his chair and sat down smoothly. Commander Thexval, welcome to Harmony. Point. We appreciate you taking time from your busy schedule to discuss peace. Peace. Thexval repeated the word like it tasted bad. Your people speak much of peace while your warships burn Vorth colonies. Our warships respond to attacks on human civilians, Sora said. Her voice was steady, but there was steel underneath. Perhaps if Vorth forces stopped targeting hospitals and schools, our warships would have less work to do. Thexval's eyes fixed on Sora. He could smell the scent of a warrior on her even through her diplomatic clothing. You speak boldly for such a small creature. Do you know who I am? War Commander Thexval of the Vorth 5th Fleet, Sora replied without hesitation. Winner of 43 battles, destroyer of Kepler 186 station, killer of 12,000. Human civilians including 3,000 children. You have done your research, Thexval said. He seemed pleased rather than upset. Then you know what happens to those who oppose me. We know what happened to those who could not fight back, Dongmin said quietly while making notes on his tablet. Civilians, medical stations, supply convoys. Your victories seem to focus on targets that cannot shoot back. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Thexval's claws extended slightly, and his guards shifted their weapons. The alien witnesses moved even further back. Hyunwoo remained perfectly calm. He opened his briefcase and removed a folder of papers. Shall we begin with the territorial disputes, or would you prefer to start with prisoner exchanges? You sit there so calmly, Thexval said. He was studying Hyunwoo like a predator examining prey. Do you not understand the danger you are in? I understand many things, Hyunwoo said. He opened the folder and began reading from the first page. I understand that 17 star systems have been devastated by this war. I understand that both our species have lost millions of people. I understand that we are here to stop the killing. The killing stops when humans submit, Thexval said. His voice was getting louder. Surrender your colonies and accept Vorth rule. Then there will be peace. That is not going to happen, Hyunwoo said in the same calm voice he might use to order coffee. Perhaps we should discuss more realistic options. Thexval stared at the human ambassador for a long moment. Most species would have shown some sign of fear by now. Increased breathing, sweating, fidgeting, stammering. The human showed nothing. He sat reading his papers as if discussing the weather. You are either very brave or very stupid, Thexval said finally. Hyunwoo looked up from his papers and met the Vorth commander's yellow eyes without blinking. Time will tell which one, Commander. Now shall we discuss the terms for ending this war, or are you planning to posture all day? The room fell silent, except for the soft hum of the air recyclers. Captain Rodriguez held her breath. The alien witnesses watched in fascination. No one had ever spoken to Thexval like that and lived. The war commander's claws scraped against the table as he leaned forward. His guards raised their weapons slightly. The humans did not move. Very well, Thexval said, after a long pause. Let us talk. But understand this, human. I have broken stronger spirits than yours. Before these talks are over, you will learn to show proper respect to a Vorth war commander. Hyunwoo made a note in the margin of his papers. I will add that threat to our record of this meeting. Now then, regarding the status of contested systems in the Kepler 442 region. As the first day of talks began, neither side realized they were about to discover something important about the other. The Vorth would learn that humans were far more dangerous than they appeared. The humans would learn that sometimes the galaxy's most feared warriors were simply bullies who had never met anyone willing to stand up to them. The way. The second day of talks began badly and got worse from there. Thexval arrived 30 minutes late with his guards clanking behind him in full battle armor. He threw himself into his chair hard enough to make the metal groan. His yellow eyes swept the room looking for signs of weakness or fear. He found none among the humans. Hyunwoo sat exactly as he had the day before, with his papers arranged neatly in front of him. Sora had her hands folded on the table and watched the Vorth guards with the calm attention of a predator. Dongmin was making notes on his tablet about Vorth behavioral patterns. Yejin adjusted her translation equipment and pretended not to notice when Thexval stared at her. "Commander," Hyunwoo said politely, "we were discussing the withdrawal of Vorth forces from the Kepler 438 system." "There will be no withdrawal," Thexval said. His voice filled the room like the growl of a large animal. "Human forces will withdraw from 12 systems, including all colonies in the Kepler 442 region. That would involve abandoning 30 million human civilians," Sora said. Her voice remained level, but something cold moved behind her eyes. "We do not abandon our people. Then they will serve the Vorth Empire," Thexval said. "Those who resist will die. Those who submit will live as slaves. This is mercy." The alien witnesses shifted uncomfortably in their seats. A few whispered among themselves in their own languages. Captain Rodriguez looked like she wanted to be anywhere else in the galaxy. Dongmin looked up from his tablet. "Our xenobiology reports indicate that Vorth and humans cannot coexist in the same environments long term. The atmospheric requirements are too different. What you are proposing is genocide with extra steps." "Genocide," Thexval repeated the word slowly. "You use this word as if it means something to me. I have destroyed 7 species during my career. Some fought well, others begged for mercy. All are now extinct." 7 species, Yejin said quietly. She was still adjusting her equipment, but her hands had stopped moving. "That you admit to." "That I am proud of," Thexval corrected. "The galaxy is better without weak species cluttering it up." Hyunwoo made another note in his papers. The sound of his pen scratching on paper was very loud in the sudden silence. "I see. And you believe humans are a weak species?" "Obviously," Thexval said. He leaned back in his chair, which creaked under his massive weight. "You send diplomats instead of warriors. You try to solve problems with words instead of claws. You waste time caring for the weak and sick instead of letting them die. Yes, humans are weak." "Interesting perspective," Hyunwoo said. He turned a page and continued reading. "Let us return to the territorial discussions. We propose a buffer zone of 3 light years between human and Vorth space." "No," Thexval said. "Vorth space expands until it meets resistance worth respecting. So far, humans have provided no such resistance. The Battle of Proxima Station might suggest otherwise," Sora said. "Your forces lost 8 heavy cruisers and 15,000 troops." "A minor setback." Thexval waved one clawed hand dismissively. "Human luck. It will not happen again." "Human luck," Dongmin repeated thoughtfully. "Is that what you call it? When a single human destroyer holds off your entire fleet for 6 hours?" Thexval's eyes narrowed. "The destroyer was destroyed. After ramming your flagship and crippling it," Sora added. "The captain went down with his ship after launching every torpedo he had. Very human behavior." "Wasteful human behavior," Thexval said, but something in his voice suggested he was not entirely convinced. The talks continued for 3 more hours with no progress. Thexval demanded complete human surrender. The humans offered reasonable compromises. The war commander grew more frustrated with each passing minute. When the session ended, Thexval remained in his chair as the others filed out. "Ambassador." "Park," he called. "A word." Hyunwoo stopped and turned back. His team hesitated at the door. "You may go," he told them quietly. "I will join you shortly." Ambassador, Sora said. Her hand moved slightly toward her hidden weapon. It is fine, Colonel, Hyunwoo said. The commander and I are both civilized beings. When the room was empty except for Thexaval, his guards, and Hyunwoo, the Vorth commander stood to his full height of 8 feet. His shadow fell across the human diplomat like a dark cloud. You are trying my patience, little human, Thexaval said. He stepped closer until he loomed over Hyunwoo, who remained seated. Do you know what I did to the last diplomat who wasted my time? I read the report, Hyunwoo said calmly. You killed Ambassador Veltoth of the Rigel Confederation, along with his entire delegation. Then you glassed their homeworld from orbit. Exactly, Thexval said. His claws extended to their full length of 6 inches. They were sharp enough to cut through steel. 40 billion Rigelians died because their diplomat annoyed me. I noted that in my files as well, Hyunwoo said. He opened his briefcase and removed a fresh notebook. War crime number 47, if I recall correctly. Thexaval blinked. Most species would be terrified by now. The human was taking notes. War crime? Mass murder of civilians, destruction of cultural sites, violation of diplomatic immunity, Hyunwoo said as he wrote. The Galactic Council has a very long list of charges against you. Would you like me to read them? The Galactic Council fears me, Thexval said. As you should. Fear, Hyunwoo repeated the word thoughtfully. Let me tell you something about fear, Commander. Fear is what prey animals feel when predators hunt them. I am not prey. Thexaval's guards moved closer. Their plasma rifles hummed with barely contained energy. The war commander smiled, showing all his sharp teeth. No, Thexval said. Then what are you? Hyunwoo looked up from his notebook and met the alien's yellow eyes. I am a human diplomat. That means I am here to prevent a war that would kill billions of people on both sides. It also means I am probably the only thing standing between your empire and complete annihilation. You threaten me. Thexval's voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. I state facts, Hyunwoo said. He closed his notebook and put it away. Humans have been fighting wars for 5,000 years. We have gotten very good at it. The only reason your empire still exists is because we prefer to talk. Thexaval reached out with one massive clawed hand and grabbed the front of Hyunwoo's uniform. He lifted the human diplomat out of his chair until they were face to face. His breath smelled like rotting meat. I could gut you like a fish right here, Thexval growled. Yes, Hyunwoo agreed. His voice remained perfectly calm, even hanging in the alien's grip. You could. Then what? Then your people would learn respect. No, Hyunwoo said. Then my people would learn that diplomacy has failed. And when humans stop talking, Commander, everything else dies. For a moment, Thexaval hesitated. There was something in the human's voice that he had never heard before. Not fear or anger or desperation. Something else. Something that made his predator instincts whisper warnings. Then his pride took over, and he squeezed harder. Your people are soft, weak. They will cry and surrender when they see your broken body. Will they? Hyunwoo asked. Are you familiar with human history, Commander? Do you know what happened to the last species that killed our diplomats? Thexval did not answer, but his grip loosened slightly. The Malthari hegemony, Hyunwoo continued in his calm voice. They captured and tortured Ambassador Chen during the first contact negotiations. They broadcast his execution across their empire to show human weakness. What happened to them? Thexaval asked, despite himself. Nothing for 6 months, Hyunwoo said. Humans are patient. We prepared carefully. Then we arrived at their homeworld with a fleet of 500 ships. The entire Malthari civilization was extinct within 72 hours. Impossible, Thexval said, but his voice lacked conviction. The planet is still there, Hyunwoo said. Empty. We left it as a monument, a reminder. The inscription on the orbital marker reads, Here lived a species that mistook human patience for human weakness. Would you like me to arrange a tour? Thexval released his grip and stepped back. The human straightened his uniform and picked up his briefcase as if nothing had happened. You would genocide an entire species for one diplomat? Thexaval asked. We would end a threat to human survival, Hyunwoo corrected. That is what we do, Commander. That is what we have always done. The only difference is scale. And if I kill? You now? Hyunwoo walked to the door, then paused and looked back. Then tomorrow, there will be 500 human warships in orbit around every Vorth world. And the day after that, there will be no more Vorth Empire. He left the room, leaving Thexaval standing alone with his guards. The war commander stared at the door for a long time. For the first time in his long career of conquest and destruction, he was beginning to understand that he might have made a serious mistake. The humans were not what they seemed. Behind their diplomatic words and peaceful gestures was something far more dangerous than anything he had ever encountered. They were predators pretending to be prey, and he was beginning to realize that he might be the one being hunted. The third day started differently. Thexval had not slept well after his private meeting with Ambassador Park. He kept thinking about the human's calm voice describing the extinction of an entire species. The Malthari had been a proud warrior, race with advanced technology and a powerful fleet. If the humans had truly destroyed them so completely, then perhaps these negotiations required more thought. But when morning came, his pride overruled his caution. No alien had ever spoken to him the way the human diplomat had. No one had ever threatened him and lived. His reputation across the galaxy was built on fear and violence. If word spread that a soft human had intimidated him, his enemies would see weakness. He could not allow that. Thexval entered the conference room with a new plan. The humans thought they were clever with their calm words and hidden threats. Today he would show them what real fear looked like. Today he would break their composure and make them beg. The human delegation was already seated when he arrived. Hyunwoo sat reading his papers as if yesterday's confrontation had never happened. Sora watched the door with alert eyes. Dongmin typed notes on his tablet. Yejin tested her translation equipment. They looked exactly the same as they had for 2 days. Calm, professional, unafraid. It made Thexaval angry. Ambassador Park, he said as he took his seat. I trust you slept well. Very well, thank you, Hyunwoo replied without looking up from his papers. Shall we continue with the territorial discussions? In a moment, Thexval said. He gestured to his guards who moved to new positions around the room. First, I think we need to establish some ground rules for these negotiations. Captain Rodriguez looked nervous. The alien witnesses shifted in their seats. They could sense the tension building like pressure before a storm. What sort of ground rules? Hyunwoo asked. He still had not looked up from his papers. Rules about respect, Thexaval said. About knowing one's place in the natural order. About understanding who has power and who does not. I see, Hyunwoo said. He made a note in the margin of his document. And you feel these rules have not been clear? Very unclear, Thexval said. He stood up slowly, his 8-foot frame casting a shadow across the table. Perhaps a demonstration would be helpful. That was when Sora's hand moved toward her weapon. That was when Dongmin stopped typing. That was when Yejin looked up from her equipment with sharp eyes. The humans had sensed the change in the room's atmosphere like wolves, scenting danger. But Thexaval was too focused on his plan to notice the subtle shift in their posture. He thought he was about to break their spirit. He thought fear would make them weak and desperate. He thought wrong. Captain Rodriguez, Thexval said without taking his eyes off the humans. Please have your security forces stand down and leave. This room. I cannot do that, Rodriguez said. Her voice was tight with worry. Station protocols require... Now! Thexval roared. His voice echoed off the metal walls like thunder. The alien witnesses cringed back in their seats. 2 of them actually fled through the side exits. Rodriguez hesitated, then activated her comm unit. Security teams Alpha and Beta withdraw to level 7. Maintain standby positions. All security teams, Thexaval corrected. Station-wide stand. Down! Sir, I cannot... Thexaval's claws scraped against the table as he leaned forward. Do it now, or I will consider the station hostile and respond accordingly. Rodriguez went pale. She knew what that meant. Thexaval's ships were armed with planet cracker weapons. All security teams stand down. Return to quarters immediately. Within minutes, the conference room was empty except for the 2 delegations and Captain Rodriguez. The Vorth guards moved to seal the exits. Their plasma rifles hummed with deadly energy. Thexval smiled his predator smile and looked down at the humans. Much better. Now we can speak freely, without interruption. Hyunwoo finally looked up from his papers. His expression had not changed at all. Are you quite finished with your preparations, Commander? We have a great deal of work to accomplish today. The complete lack of reaction infuriated Thexval. Where was the fear? Where was the panic? Where was the desperate pleading for mercy? The humans sat there like they were waiting for him to order coffee. You do not understand your situation, Thexval said. You are surrounded, cut off, at my mercy. I understand the situation perfectly, Hyunwoo said. He closed his folder and folded his hands on the table. You have decided to violate the Galactic Accords on diplomatic immunity in front of multiple witnesses. You have threatened neutral station personnel. You have sealed emergency exits in violation of safety protocols. Shall I continue? You think your laws and protocols matter here? Thexval laughed. The sound was like grinding stone. I have the power. I make the rules. Do you? Sora asked quietly. How interesting. Something in her tone made Thexval pause. The human female was not looking at him with fear or submission. She was studying him like a scientist examining a particularly stupid specimen. Yes, Thexval said, but with less confidence than before. I am War Commander of the 5th Fleet. I have conquered 43 worlds. I have destroyed 7 species. I am Death Incarnate. You are a bully, Dongmin said without looking up from his tablet, and not a particularly clever one. The insult hit Thexval like a physical blow. No one had ever called him such a thing. Warriors across the galaxy spoke his name in whispers. Entire fleets fled rather than face him in battle. He was fear itself given form. I am going to enjoy breaking you, Thexval snarled. He signaled his guards, who raised their weapons and aimed them at the human delegation. That was the moment. Everything changed. Hyunwoo did not flinch or duck or cry out. Instead, he reached for his water glass and took a slow sip. The sound of him swallowing was very loud in the tense silence. Commander, he said in a voice so calm it was almost conversational. Are you familiar with the concept of mutually assured destruction? What? Thexval was thrown off by the unexpected question. It is an old human military doctrine, Hyunwoo explained. The idea that if you can guarantee your enemy's destruction even if they destroy you first, rational actors will choose not to attack. More human philosophy, Thexval sneered. Weakness disguised as wisdom. Perhaps, Hyunwoo agreed. But here is the interesting thing about mutually assured destruction, Commander. It only works if both sides are rational. He set down his water glass and looked directly into Thexval's yellow eyes. When he spoke again, his voice carried a subtle change. Still calm, still polite. But now there was something underneath it. Something cold and patient and utterly without mercy. You see, Commander, you have made a critical error in judgment. You have confused human restraint with human weakness. You have mistaken our preference for diplomacy as inability to wage war. You have assumed that because we choose not to destroy you, we cannot destroy you. Human words, Thexval said, but his voice lacked its earlier confidence. Human facts, Hyunwoo corrected. Let me share some data with you. The human fleet currently has 147 ships within 6 hours of this station, another 300 within 24 hours. Our nearest battle group includes the CNS. Retribution, a dreadnought-class vessel with enough firepower to sterilize a small moon. Thexval's claws twitched. You are bluffing. Am I? Hyunwoo asked. Ye-jin, would you please activate the tactical display? Ye-jin touched her tablet, and suddenly the air above the conference table filled with a 3-dimensional star map. Red dots marked human ship positions. There were a lot of red dots. Each red marker represents a human warship. Hyunwoo explained in his terrifyingly calm voice. As you can see, we did not come here unprepared. Standard diplomatic protocol when dealing with hostile species. Thexval stared at the display. The human fleet positions formed a perfect encirclement of Vorth space. If those ships moved simultaneously, they could strike every major Vorth world within days. This proves nothing, he said, but sweat was beginning to form on his scaled skin. Your ships are too far away to help you now. True, Hyunwoo agreed. But you seem to be under the impression that I need help. He stood up slowly and walked around the table until he was standing directly in front of the massive Vorth commander. Thexaval was 8 feet tall and weighed over 400 pounds. His claws could slice through steel. His jaw could crush bones. He was a living weapon bred for war. Hyunwoo was 5 feet 8 inches tall and weighed 160 pounds. He wore a diplomat suit and carried only papers and a pen. By any measure, he should have been terrified. Instead, he looked up at the alien warrior and smiled. It was not a nice smile. "Commander," he said in a voice that somehow filled the entire room, despite being barely above a whisper. "You seem to have mistaken patience for weakness. That was your last mistake." The words hit Thexval like a physical blow. Suddenly, he realized that the calm, polite human diplomat standing before him was not prey at all. He was something far more dangerous. He was a predator who had been pretending to be harmless, and now the pretending was over. "What are you?" Thexaval whispered. Hyunwoo's smile grew wider and somehow less human. "I am what happens when you threaten my species, Commander. I am what your empire will face if these negotiations fail. I am the alternative to peace." In that moment, standing in the sealed conference room surrounded by his own guards and facing an unarmed human diplomat, the silence in the conference room stretched like a wire about to snap. Thexaval stood frozen, his yellow eyes locked on the small human diplomat who had just spoken words that chilled him to his bones. Around them, his guards shifted nervously, their weapons still trained on the human delegation, but their confidence shaken. Sora chose that moment to stand up. Her movement was smooth and controlled like a dancer or a killer. "Ambassador," she said, in a voice that carried the authority of someone who had led troops into battle, "shall I inform the commander what happened to the last alien force that threatened a human diplomat?" Hyunwoo nodded once. "Please do, Colonel." Kim. The title hung in the air like a revealed weapon. Colonel, not just a diplomatic aide. Thexaval's predator instincts screamed warnings as he realized the humans had been hiding their true nature from the beginning. "The Battle of Proxima Station," Sora began, her voice taking on the tone of someone reciting a military report. "Star date, 2384.7. The hegemony attacked and destroyed a human diplomatic vessel carrying Ambassador Chen and his delegation. They broadcast the execution across their empire to demonstrate human weakness." She paused and looked directly at Thexval. "They learned too late that killing human diplomats is considered an act of war by every human government, military, and civilian population." "Impossible," Thexval said, but his voice lacked conviction. "One ship cannot justify—" 72 hours, Sora continued as if he had not spoken. "That is how long it took for the human colonial fleet to mobilize. 500 ships, 800,000 troops, 15 planetary bombardment platforms." Dongmin looked up from his tablet where he had been typing throughout the confrontation. "The xenobiological reports are fascinating," he said in a conversational tone that somehow made his words more terrifying. "The hegemony homeworld had a population of 12 billion. After the human response, the planet supported exactly 0 complex life forms." "You are lying," Thexval said, but sweat was now flowing freely down his scaled face. "No species would commit genocide over one diplomat." "Not genocide," Yejin corrected quietly. She was still sitting at her translation equipment, but her fingers were no longer adjusting controls. They were dancing across hidden weapon interfaces. "Pest control." The casual way she said it sent ice through Thexaval's veins. These humans were not diplomats pretending to be warriors. They were warriors pretending to be diplomats. Hyunwoo walked back to his chair and sat down. His movements were unhurried and controlled. "You see, Commander, you have been operating under a fundamental misunderstanding about human nature. You believe we are weak because we prefer to talk rather than fight. You think compassion is the same as cowardice. You assume that because we try to save lives, we cannot take them." He opened his briefcase and removed a small device that projected holographic images above the table. The first image showed a beautiful blue and green world orbiting a yellow star. "This was Malthar Prime," Hyunwoo said, "homeworld of the Malthari hegemony. Population 12 billion, 7 major cities, 3,000 years of recorded history. The image changed to show the same planet, but now it was gray and lifeless. The oceans were dark. No lights showed on the night side. Nothing moved on the surface. "This is Malthar Prime today," Hyun-woo continued. "Population 0, no cities, no history, a monument to what happens when someone mistakes human patience for human weakness." Thexval stared at the dead world displayed above the table. "Your species destroyed an entire civilization for one diplomat?" "We ended a threat," Sora corrected. "The hegemony declared war on humanity when they executed our ambassador. We simply finished the war they started." "In 72 hours," Dongmin added. "We are very efficient when we stop trying to be merciful." Thexval's guards were beginning to understand that something had gone very wrong with their commander's plan. The humans were not cowering or begging. They were explaining, calmly and patiently, why threatening them had been a terrible mistake. "But you are here," Thexval said desperately. "You are negotiating. You want peace." "We prefer peace," Hyun-woo agreed. "Peace allows us to explore and learn and build new things. War forces us to focus on destroying things. We find destruction much easier than creation, but far less satisfying. Then why threaten war if you prefer peace?" "Because, Commander," Hyun-woo said in a voice that was gentle and terrible at the same time, "we learned long ago that the only way to have lasting peace is to be so good at war that nobody wants to fight us." The holographic display changed again. Now it showed tactical displays of human fleet movements, ship positions, weapon systems, battle formations that could reduce planets to rubble. Every human ship in our fleet was designed by people who studied every military conflict. "In recorded history," Sora explained, "we know how every species fights. We know their strengths and weaknesses. We know how to defeat them quickly and completely." "We know about Vorth tactics," Dongmin said without emotion. "Your preference for psychological warfare. Your reliance on fear and intimidation. Your tendency to target civilians to break enemy morale." "We know about your fleet positions," Yejin added. "Your supply lines, your command structure, your backup plans, and your backup plans for your backup plans." Thexval was beginning to understand that the humans had not come to these negotiations as supplicants hoping for mercy. They had come as predators, deciding whether their prey was worth keeping alive. "What do you want?" he asked, and for the first time in his long career, his voice carried a note of genuine fear. "We want what we have always wanted," Hyun-woo said. "An end to this war. A reasonable peace that allows both our species to survive and prosper. The difference is that now you understand what happens if we do not get it." The holographic display changed one final time. Now it showed Vorth space surrounded by human fleet positions. Red markers indicated human ships. There were hundreds of them. Thousands. A network of destruction that could be activated with a single command. "Standard diplomatic protocol," Hyun-woo explained. "When human diplomats meet with hostile species, we ensure that failure to reach an agreement results in the complete elimination of the threat. It makes negotiations more focused and productive." "You would really destroy the entire Vorth Empire?" Thexval asked. "If necessary," Hyun-woo replied without hesitation, "but we would prefer not to. Extinction is wasteful. It eliminates potential allies and trading partners. It destroys unique cultures and technologies. It makes the galaxy a smaller and lonelier place." "But you would do it." "Commander," Hyun-woo said, and now his voice carried the weight of absolute certainty. "We have done it before, multiple times. The galaxy is full of empty worlds that once belonged to species who thought humans were weak. We remember their names even though no one else does. We built monuments on their graves so we would never forget the cost of being underestimated." Sora leaned forward. "The question is not whether we can destroy your empire, Commander. The question is whether we need to." "And that decision," Dongmin said while making notes on his tablet, "depends entirely on what you choose to do in the next few minutes." Thexval looked around the room at his guards. They were still armed. They still outnumbered the humans. In theory, he could still order them to fire and eliminate the human delegation. But he knew with absolute certainty that if he gave that order, it would be the last command he ever issued. Somewhere in human space, an automated system was monitoring this negotiation. If the human delegation died, the response would be immediate and total. "My fleet," he said weakly. "My people." Will be spared if you choose wisdom over pride, Hyunwoo said. Will be remembered only in history books if you do not. But I am War Commander of the Fifth Fleet. I do not surrender. You are not surrendering, Yejin said gently. You are choosing to let your people live. That is not weakness, Commander. That is the hardest kind of strength. Thexval closed his eyes, and for a moment he looked older than his years. When he opened them again, something had changed. The predatory arrogance was gone, replaced by the tired wisdom of a warrior who had finally met something more dangerous than himself. What are your terms? He asked quietly. Hyunwoo smiled, and it was a kind smile now, not the terrible predator grin from before. The same reasonable terms we offered 2 days ago, Commander. Territorial boundaries, prisoner exchanges, trade, agreements, mutual non-aggression pacts. The only difference is that now you understand why accepting them is in your best interest. And if I agree to these terms, then this war ends, and both our species begin to build something better. Your people live. Our people live. The killing stops. And if I refuse? Hyunwoo's expression did not change, but somehow the temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. Then this conversation never happened. You never threatened human diplomats. You never violated station protocols. You simply suffered an unfortunate accident during routine negotiations. The implications hung in the air like a sword. Thexval would die. His guards would die. His fleet would be destroyed. His empire would be erased. And the official records would show that it had all been a tragic misunderstanding. I understand, Thexval said finally. I choose wisdom. Excellent, Hyunwoo said. He gestured to his team, and their weapons disappeared as quickly as they had appeared. The news spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. Within hours of the incident at Harmony Point, every major news network was broadcasting the same incredible story. War Commander Thexval, the most feared military leader in Vorth history, had been seen on security footage sitting calmly across from human diplomats, discussing peace terms like a civilized being. The footage showed Thexval entering the conference room in full battle rage, his guards armed and ready for violence. It showed him sealing the exits and threatening the human delegation. Then something happened that the cameras could not quite capture. The audio was too low and the angles too poor to show exactly what the humans said, but whatever it was had transformed the most dangerous predator in known space into a cooperative negotiator in less than 10 minutes. The reaction was immediate and galaxy-wide. On Centauri Prime, the Council of Ministers held an emergency session to discuss the implications. The Rigel Confederation sent urgent messages to their ambassadors, warning them to treat human diplomats with extreme courtesy. 3 minor species that had been planning raids on human colonies quietly canceled their military exercises. Most telling of all was the reaction from Vorth space itself. Fleet commanders who had served under Thexval for decades sent encrypted messages to their homeworld asking for clarification. Had their war commander truly negotiated with humans? Had he really agreed to peace terms? What did this mean for the Empire? The answer came from Thexval himself in a message broadcast to every Vorth ship in the galaxy. He appeared on screen looking tired but determined. Behind him stood his senior advisors, Sekmoth and Veltara, both of whom had spent the last day analyzing classified intelligence reports about human military capabilities. "Warriors of the Empire," Thexval began, his voice carrying none of its usual rage. "I speak to you now not as your war commander, but as someone who has learned the difference between courage and stupidity." He paused and looked directly into the camera. "The humans are not what we believed them to be. Their preference for diplomacy is not weakness. Their restraint is not cowardice. Their desire for peace is not surrender. It is the calculated choice of a species that has become so effective at warfare that they no longer need to prove their strength." The broadcast continued for 20 minutes as Thexval explained what he had learned. The humans had fought wars for thousands of years before they ever left their homeworld. They had practiced genocide, planetary bombardment, and species extinction on each other long before they met other aliens. When they finally reached the stars, they brought with them the accumulated military knowledge of 5 millennia of conflict. "We have been fighting wars for 300 years, Thexval said. "They have been fighting wars for 5,000. We destroy our enemies. They study their enemies, learn everything about them, then eliminate them so completely that nothing remains but empty worlds and warning monuments. Sekhmoth stepped forward to address the camera. Our intelligence services have confirmed the ambassador's claims. The human species has completely exterminated at least 7 alien civilizations in the past century. In each case, the official records list the cause as threat to human survival or violation of diplomatic immunity. Veltara added her own analysis. The humans maintain detailed records of every species they have encountered. They know our strengths, our weaknesses, our tactical preferences, and our technological capabilities. They have been preparing to destroy us since first contact. The only reason we still exist is because they have chosen to let us live. The message ended, with Thexaval announcing his decision to sign the peace treaty with full territorial concessions to human demands. This is not surrender, he said firmly. This is survival. The humans have shown us mercy by offering peace instead of extinction. We would be fools not to accept it. The reaction in Vorth space was swift and decisive. Fleet commanders who had spent years planning attacks on human colonies quietly filed their warships in orbital storage. Military academies began teaching new courses on diplomatic protocol and peaceful conflict resolution. The entire empire began the difficult process of transforming from a warrior culture to something more sustainable. Back on Harmony Point, the peace negotiations proceeded with remarkable speed. What had been deadlocked for 3 days was resolved in 3 hours once Thexval understood the true stakes. The final treaty included territorial boundaries that both species could live with, prisoner exchange programs, and the establishment of neutral trade zones. More importantly, it included specific provisions for preventing future conflicts. Any aggressive action by either species would trigger immediate investigation by neutral observers. Any violation of diplomatic immunity would result in economic sanctions, followed by military intervention if necessary. Hyun-woo signed the treaty with the same calm precision he had shown throughout the negotiations. This is a good day for both. Our species, Commander. Your people will live to see their children grow up in peace. And yours will not need to carry the burden of another extinction. Thexval replied. I am beginning to understand why you prefer diplomacy to warfare. War is easy, Sora said as she witnessed the signing. Any fool with weapons can start a war. Peace requires wisdom, patience, and strength. It takes far more courage to choose not to destroy your enemies. The celebrations that followed were subdued but genuine. Captain Rodriguez finally relaxed for the first time in days. The alien witnesses sent messages to their governments praising human diplomatic skills. The galaxy gained 2 new words in its common vocabulary: human patience, meaning restraint backed by overwhelming force, and human mercy, meaning the choice to spare enemies who could easily be destroyed. 6 months later, Ambassador Park Hyun-woo returned to Earth as a hero. The president herself met him at the spaceport along with crowds of cheering civilians. But Hyun-woo knew the truth that the crowds did not. He had not won the peace through brilliant negotiation or diplomatic skill. He had won it by showing an alien warlord exactly what would happen if the negotiations failed. In his private report to the Colonial Council, he wrote, "The Vorth Empire has agreed to peace not because they respect human wisdom, but because they fear human capability. This is not true peace, but it is functional peace. It will last as long as they remember what they learned at Harmony Point." The report concluded with a recommendation that became standard policy for all future diplomatic missions. When dealing with aggressive species who mistake restraint for weakness, it may be necessary to briefly remove the mask of diplomacy and show them what lies underneath. Most rational beings will choose to negotiate once they understand the alternative. Thexval returned to Vorth space a changed being. He spent his remaining years not as a war commander but as a teacher, training young Vorth officers in the arts of diplomacy and peaceful conflict resolution. He often told his students about the day he learned the most important lesson of his career. "I thought humans were weak because they preferred to talk instead of fight," he would say. "I learned that they prefer to talk because they are too good at fighting. When a species becomes capable of casual genocide, conversation becomes their greatest act of mercy." The war that had raged for 3 years ended not with glorious battle or heroic sacrifice, but with a quiet signing ceremony in a conference room. Both species went home to rebuild their worlds and plan for a future without constant warfare. And somewhere in human space, automated systems continued to monitor Vorth communications and fleet movements, ready to activate the galaxy's most efficient military machine if the peace ever failed. The humans hoped they would never need to use those systems again, but they kept them ready just in case. Because as Ambassador Park had explained to War Commander Thexval in that moment of terrible truth, humans had learned long ago that the best way to ensure peace was to be so devastatingly good at war that no rational enemy would ever choose to fight them. The galaxy was a safer place because the most dangerous species in it preferred to build rather than destroy. But it was also a more dangerous place because everyone now knew what happened to those who forced humanity's hand. The empty worlds scattered throughout known space served as monuments to that knowledge. Silent warnings that some species were too dangerous to threaten and too patient to provoke. The humans had shown mercy to the Vorth Empire by teaching them this lesson with words instead of weapons. It was a mercy they hoped they would never need to withdraw.